Hello, my name is John Seiler, and this is my video response to the New Threats of Freedom video entitled On the Loss of Freedom to Fail by Michael Goodwin. I agree with Michael Goodwin that the loss of freedom to fail is a significant threat to freedom today. This is because failure is a part of the market process. And when you distort that process, things get messed up. When you distort the market, like removing the freedom to fail, you suddenly allow the government to come into another sector of our economy, thus taking away another freedom. There are a few points that prove that removing the freedom to fail is a threat to freedom. The first is personal interest. In society, there are two common goals that everyone shares: self-preservation and self-development. The government's job is to ensure that we can do these things without being harmed by the wills of other people. In fact, the very definition of freedom is the ability to pursue self-preservation and self-development without being subjected to the will of another. And that is because self-preservation and self-development, what I like to call it personal interest, is the foundation of freedom. Personal interest motivates us. Personal interest guides our decisions through the markets. Personal interest rewards us for good decisions. All of that leads to my second point. Removing failure distorts personal interest. For example, in a sports competition, your goal or your personal interest is to win the game. Without the possibility of failure in sports, of losing, there would be no point in making winning the goal because the goal is already met as soon as you enter the game. In other words, it is automatic that you win, so of course your goal is going to be something besides winning. And so removing failure disincentivizes the true good outcomes of sports. All of these will not come about if we remove the possibility of failure. But what about areas where the government is more likely to get involved? In a school system, the normal goal, the normal definition of success is to be educated. Without failure in a school system, the goal is not education, because education is not necessary. In fact, if you remove failure from the equation, education is the difficult path and apathy is the simple path. It would be much wiser to pick the simple path of apathy. And yet there is another example where the government could and has gotten involved in, and that is the area of business. In business, the goal is to be profitable. Every business sets out with the single idea that they want to make a profit so that their business can succeed. But without failure, profit doesn't have to be the goal. In fact, when failure becomes profitable, when people pay you when you fail, when you are given bailouts, when you do not succeed, suddenly failure becomes profitable. Profit on your own becomes extra work that is entirely unnecessary. And this leads right into my third and final point, which is that distortion leads to tyranny. Why does removing the freedom to fail lead to the erosion of freedom itself? There are three reasons. First, false perception. Distortions erase people's abilities to tell how things really should be. People can get used to the idea that failure can even be success. Or they can get used to the idea that no matter what they do, there are no consequences. The second is heavy reliance. When people forget how things ought to be, they often put their reliance on the system that makes things that way. People often rely on the government in situations where they should be taking action themselves. The third reason, and the most dangerous one of all, is that there is no standard. If the government is allowed to remove one part of freedom, the freedom to fail, then what is keeping the government from removing more parts of freedom? Mahatma Gandhi once said that freedom is not worth having if it does not include the freedom to make mistakes. Removing the freedom to fail is a threat to freedom itself. Thank you.